I don't know. It made me think about a lot of things, and
Yeah,
like that more than anything else. More than like
that's
we
incredible,
talk
actually.
about like games as terms like mechanics and like all the things that build up to make it fun, but this game like
Hmm.
it hit something really profound in me.
I think that's the beauty of like when we talk about um, something we think is like benign as like movies or stories, right? But like I think that the thing is that we chase in movies and our stories and games like these is like something that touches on a reality of our humanity.
Welcome to Beyond the Pixel, episode 10. This is the last episode that we're ever going to record where you can count it on two hands. I'm Luis Fernando Sandrin, and I noticed that my name tags aren't up because I reset OBS. But over there is Ken
Okay.
Ha, digital
We can
artist.
figure it out, or we'll do it in post.
That's true.
Screw it. We'll do it in post.
That's what we say nowadays.
Yeah.
All right, Ken. Do you know what we also say nowadays?
What's that?
Spiritfarer is an amazing game.
Really?
That's what we
okay,
say.
so yeah, so tell me about this game. I
So,
actually have not heard much about it.
Really?
Yeah.
So Spiritfarer is a game that I've been waiting for an extremely long time, ever since I saw it on the Nindies stream on Nintendo. It is essentially a game, as they call it, a game about saying goodbye. You play as Spiritfarer, this person called Stella, and her cat Daffodil. You have been anointed with the role as Spiritfarer from Charon? I never know how to pronounce his name.
What's
the Farrier of
what
the
is a
Dead.
Spiritfarer? What
A
is a
Spiritfarer is like when you remember in the Greek myths, there was Charon, who ferried people across the river of Styx to the afterlife.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah.
this is your role. You basically find spirits, you put them on your ferry, and you take them on to the afterlife when they're ready to pass on.
It sounds like an underworld Papers, Please.
Yes, but it's
Is it-
more accurate to say it is an underworld Stardew Valley.
Oh, okay.
Because this is a very chill, relaxing management style of game. I just reset the footage here real quick. Don't worry about
Is
it.
it? So it's like a Terraria, Minecraft, like farming
Less-
type of game.
Less so of the more freeform exploration that you would find in Terraria and Minecraft. Definitely more focused in what you would find in a more farming focused game. You basically have your ferry, and on your ferry, where you're taking on your spirits, you can also be growing plants, growing crops, making corn, rice, and then cooking that to make different sorts of foods. You can harvest wood and lumber in the world on the islands that you stop by. It's a big open map, and you stop by different islands and you find different resources like wood, berries, different foods that you can like get that way. You can combine them to make better foods in your kitchen. And all the lumber that you get, all the rocks you farm, you use those to make better buildings or improve existing buildings, so you can make those resources better. It's sort of like a factory style game in that way.
Right.
But all this is in service to making your ferry a better place for your spirits. And there's only a few of them. I'm not going to say the number just for
Very
spoilers, but like
interesting.
there's only a few number of spirits in the game, and they're all got their own personalities, their own likes and dislikes, and you're gonna have to keep feeding them, do different missions for them. Some of them are like very obsessed with your lumberyard, and like, oh my god, wouldn't it be great if you just had a bunch of lumber, or if you build like this shack, or if you improved it. And by doing these tasks, you are advancing their storyline. You're learning more about their past lives. You're learning more about what they like, and so you can make stuff better for them so they become happier. And when they become happier, they start helping out on the ferry. So they end up like doing some weaving for you. They
kinda
end
like
up
Animal
cutting
Crossing.
wood for you. It's kind of like Animal Crossing if the animals actually like pitched in more than just like, hey, I found a rock. Do you want it?
The animation style looks very interesting. It has like
It's
a
all hand
sword
drawn.
in the shield type style feel
Yes.
to it.
Yes, it is. It's all hand drawn. all the spirits have like their own different animations, their own sort of like little ticks, and you build custom houses for them in their own style that would make them feel better, and you can like improve them to improve their happiness.
So
It's
not
very
quite a
much
sandbox.
that kind of game. It is and it isn't. There is a remarkable amount of freedom in this game, which is part of the reason why I liked it. You are free to go around these islands, depending on the abilities you have. As you upgrade your ship, you'll be able to cross into areas that are covered in mist. You'll be able to cross through areas that are cordoned off by rocks or ice, and that's sort of the progression. That's how they gate you. With different types of resources that you're going to get, some advanced resources for different upgrades, or in islands that you can't get unless you have the thing that lets you access them. So they get you in that sort of way. But in the zone that you're in, you're free to explore, find spirits, progress in their quests in whichever way that you want. It feels very liberating that way, and it gets you in this very engaging loop of like upgrading your ship, discovering new recipes, talking to the spirits, finding what they like, and making them feel happier so they help you out more. And this whole time, as you're bonding with the spirits, nagging in the back of your head is the fact that you're gonna have to say goodbye to them at some point, because that is your job. You're going to be getting these spirits to the other side.
Are these all voice acted, or are they, because we
No.
don't have the audio here? Is it just text?
It is just text.
Okay.
But they each have their own sound effects. Like the frog uncle sounds very, very specific. The prissy deer is very like just right, you know?
Yeah.
It had
How
these
is the
little sound
writing?
effects. It is exceptional. It is exceptional.
Nice.
I find it so remarkable in this game, especially a game about like saying goodbye, that all these characters you end up meeting, you know them, right? They're all emblematic of the people that you've kind of met in your life. Like, it's the uncle who just loves food and is like big and rotund, and he's just a jolly good time to be around, and he always wants to like insert himself into your life and like be around you and be that good uncle. There's like the lady that's all about the snake lady. She's all about like meditation and like finding peace in more world, and like you discover more about their lives and you know how they became to be that way, right? I don't want to give too much away about the plot, because definitely finding out more about the characters is what they are. But you start finding parallels in your life,
Right.
of these characters, and that's what makes this game so almost heartbreaking to when you have to say goodbye to them, because
It has like a sense. Sorry, go ahead.
these are people that have lived full lives and they have reached this point, right? They've gotten old at a certain point and they have died and they reached this plane. So these are people that have had full experiences, and you see when they describe different parts of their lives, you're like, oh, I know somebody that went through this, or like, oh, I know somebody that like I loved because they were exactly like this. You see these different elements. And the fact that they made the very good artistic choice of making them all like anthropomorphic animals means that it crosses like gender bounds and racial bounds, right? And you can really relate to it no matter who these characters were, right? Because your big uncle, and he was always like jumping around all the place just like a frog would, you relate to it in that sort of way. Or like your friend that was very snobbish, like very much like this prissy deer friend that you find, and like she's still like very near and dear to you despite the fact that she's from a completely different like financial class than you, right?
Right.
And her regalness and her dearness like exemplify that, and that
Right.
just accentuates the personality even more.
Yeah. It has like reminds me a bit of what's the movie? Spirited Away. You know how like there's that bathhouse that have all the spiritual visitors coming in? It gives me that sense.
I've never seen Spirited Away, and
Oh
I'm
well,
really
it's
sad
it's
about
it's
it.
it's essentially the Japanese version of a very similar type of realm, because it's an afterlife like type of realm. And then she has visitors in her bathhouse, which is essentially like this halfway house, right? And it's not her bathhouse; it's like this like hotel, etc. But the vibe I get is very similar, where it has like this weird. It's like a mystical vibe, but then there's a danger to like the mysticism.
There is a definite whimsy to this game in just everything you find, because in addition to this stuff, like as you can see like in the footage, like playing guitar to like help your plants grow. And like I love the song in this.
Yeah.
Like there's that sort of whimsy to it, and your cat sings along with it too. And you know she you hear the little meows like contributing to the song, and then like it swells as like music as the plants start to go. There's a lot of whimsy in that way.
Yeah.
Each one of the spirits also. Sorry.
It's very interesting. This is the kind of stuff that I feel like the kind of charm you can't get in AAA games. You know, like these like little things that are just like cute that have no real reason to be there. There's no like marketing reason that you should put it in here, but it's nice, right?
Yeah, and it's super simple too. Like the music is the same every time. You don't collect different musics. The progression is always the same. It's just one little part of this game, and there is so much variety in what happens in the game like over its time. It does overstay its welcome a little bit, but I think there's a reason for that, and it's something that I want to talk about in a spoiler cast at another time.
It's a story related reason, an RP.
It's a story related reason why. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that it does that. I feel like it's excusing a little bit, but regardless, every single one of the spirits has an activity associated with it. So every time you pick up a new spirit, you know that it's going to introduce one new thing on the map that you can interact with. For example, the frog uncle, Atul.
Yeah.
He introduces you the fact that if you go into thunderstorms, you can catch lightning in a bottle. And that introduces like this little mini game where you're running around your ship, and you can there'll be lightning crackles, and he's like playing his flute on the ground, right, to attack the lightning, and you get hit by lightning.
Man. They're so nice.
Oh, they're so good. You can hug all the spirits, and they each have their own like little hugging animation as well. It's fantastic.
It reminds me. Another thing it reminds me is the old point and click adventure games. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes. There is definite adventure game vibes in it because it is definitely you going to islands. The islands also have their little problems, and you eventually collect abilities by collecting Spiritfarers to give you payment, which is like this little thing called an opal. Oh, not an opal, an obol.
Oh.
That's and that's sort
money?
of like that's a payment. It's a token. It's a payment for the ferryman, right?
Oh, okay.
For him to take you to the other side.
It's like a ticket.
Yeah. And as you get those, you'll be able to cash them in for abilities like a double jump, because there are some light platforming elements in this game. And you'll be able to
put these games
explore
into like a category of like these 2D games that have. I wouldn't say like it's not that they don't have a lot of depth, but they have their depth is in the amount of types of gameplay mechanics they put into it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it seems like they can afford to never really double up on the same mechanic twice. And it's what makes it interesting, because you're always trying to figure out what other way can you interact, right?
Yeah. I think the thing that they definitely put the most that is the most deep is your management of the ferry in the game. Because as you build out that ferry, I'll show it later in the footage for you to see. It is super flexible. All the buildings come in these weird like tetramino shapes. So you have this really fun part where you're just trying to fit all the ferries in like the correct way. And depending on how you build it out, that will also make different activities like catching lightning harder or easier depending on how you build stuff out. It's really reactive to player choice in that way.
Interesting.
Some parts, like one of the activities is there's these jellyfish that are coming to the ship, and you want to catch them because that gives you glims, which is your actual currency in the game that lets you buy stuff from shops and upgrades for your boat, as well as a special resource. But some of them, you see that they fly just overhead, and you can't catch them. But if you build a structure in the middle, you can start catching all those jellyfish, right? Instead of just a few.
Nice.
And that's sort of the part that I feel they put emphasis more, because you can also edit your boat at any time. It doesn't cost you anything. You can rearrange your ship at any time. It's really entertaining. And the other part of it is when you're on islands, and it definitely becomes more of an adventure exploration game as like you find hidden areas to get hidden chests, talk to different people, and they give you like little side quests that are just like you have to find different berries.
This sequence, it reminds me of old Super Nintendo games when all they had was like alphas for you to play with. But it had it has so much more advanced.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
And this is like just a one-off area. It was like, oh, here's a little maze in this rich mansion that you can explore and find items in. There's also a gardener who's like locked himself out of his garden. And you can go and talk to. Yeah.
It reminds me also of the Ocarina of Time. You know how they had so many little like weird mechanics that had nothing to do with the main mechanic of the game as like side quests.
Mm-hmm.
Like this reminds me of like Hyrule Castle when you're like suddenly you have a solid snake like situation and for the first time in the game ever, and you're trying to like sneak around these guards.
When you take a game and they put mechanics in it that have no business being in that game itself, but it just adds a variety and whimsy to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of that in this game. Like I said, every single spirit has its own activity, and you just keep getting. They're all sort of the same on like the fairies. Like, oh, go to the place where this thing is happening. And you collect this special resource. They're all sort of like that, but each of them has their own visual style. It has its own musical, musical like theme song for that activity. And it's also good. The music in this game is amazing. It's incredible. It's super enjoyable. Every moment in this game just feels to put a smile on your face.
What system is it? Is it on? Is it for PC? Or is it?
It is on PC, PS4, Xbox One. It's on Xbox Game Pass, and Nintendo Switch.
Pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything.
Nice. This game looks. How long do you think the gameplay is, and how much is it?
It's longer than you think. It took me between 25 to 30 hours to finish the whole game.
Okay.
It's quite long because it wants you to spend time with these spirits, right? And like it definitely becomes like something where you want to like optimize and get everything right, because there's a day and night cycle and your ship starts running in the night. So sometimes you'll want to like, oh, here I can like water all my plants and stuff because I can't like go out on the island and just
you get caught up in the world.
Yeah. Because all your spirits are asleep as well, so you don't have to like feed them.
It's a funny thing in like
no risk. Sorry.
It's a funny thing nighttime in video games, because it also feels like like a nighttime version of nighttime if you're playing it at night. Because like nighttime in Ocarina of Time, we were just talking about, like it's weird because then first off all the zombies are out, so you're kind of scared, and then none of the NPCs are out, and so you feel like it actually feels like it's like a weird experience. You're like in a limbo.
Exactly. It definitely feels like the game also like slows down a little bit, and you can just breathe. And there's times in this game where it kind of just wants you to breathe and like take it in, and it has the art and musical chops to back it up.
Terrarium or something?
Yeah. There's just this monkey, and he just goes around, and I think it's a monkey. He's like a weird onion monkey. And he just carries trash, and you can sell your trash to him, and he'll give you like a plant that just grows different trash that you can sell back to him. He's great. He also do like daily errands for him, which gets you money.
He's the vendor.
Yeah.
Vendor boy.
And kind of like the merchant in Resident Evil 4, he just shows up when he's needed every now and then.
I love that. I love that merchant, dude. Like, I was like my savior.
What are you buying?
I always loved I loved in RE4 the organizing mechanic. I don't know why. I loved organizing my stuff and having a very neat organized like suitcase.
You know what's interesting now that you say that? Organizing your buildings in this game is exactly the same type of satisfying that organizing your cache case is in RE4. And it has it's a grid, right? And everything has like, it takes up its own slots and its own thing, and you're sliding things in. Like, I want to make these the best platforms possible because I don't want to like have to travel all the way over here to get lightning. Right. And eventually you'll make like fans that you can use to glide to higher areas, or attach like ropes that you can zip line across your ship. It's extremely like curated in that way. Like
Terraria, where you like build like custom arenas or something to like fight bosses and stuff.
Yeah. It has that sort of flexibility with your ship, even though it's very restricted onto your boat.
Well, so when you place a thing down, you can just move it again, right? Like a building?
Anytime. It doesn't cost anything. Demolishing something gives you all the resources back from it. And the thing is, and here's, we need to really talk about how good this game is at setting out to make a game about saying goodbye, because we're talking about all these mechanics and all these surface levels things, and like it sounds like a good game, but what really makes it well is how it all comes together and make saying goodbye something that you really have to come to terms with. And that's something that me in real life, I have a lot of problems with. Like I have a lot of anxiety about that, about like death, about like people going away, people changing, people becoming different people. That gives me a lot of anxiety, and this game like really confronts you with that.
How does
this task?
Like, I guess I don't know how to ask you without you spoiling it, but like I want to know how it does that.
The first character I had to say goodbye to was really hard for me because I really liked them, and they came out and said like, I'm ready to go, and I'm like, I'm not ready for you to go. But like that objective was there, and like they were like, I'm ready, I really want to go, we should really do this whenever you're ready. And I was like, okay, I need to see this through. And I went ahead and like I did the journey. I just started crying because it was like, it's a very slow, like you're rowing your boat, and like they just start talking to you about like their experiences with you, and I'm just like, this is really hard for me right now. And like I just start crying, and they say goodbye. I start crying again, and then that's it. They're gone from your game, and you go back to your ferry, and you have to continue playing the game. And like I just stood there for a bit, and when I watered my crops, you know, I walked by their house, and they were no longer there. And I thought, like, this house is just gonna sit here empty, and like I started crying again, and like took a moment. I tried trying to play the game again, and I had to stop. I had to stop playing the game, not because like I got tired of it, or because it got challenging, but I had to process the loss of this character and the ongoing realization that this was gonna be the rest of the game. And it was going to constantly remind me that this person is gone, and I had to be okay with it. I turned the game off. I sat down on couch. I called my friend, and I had a conversation about how this game was making me feel. I've been so affected by it. Like, thinking about it right now is like still like shaking me a little.
It's hard for me to buy into it right now because you said that the main thing was that you like this character, and I'm like, what if I don't like this character?
What if you don't like this character?
What if you don't like this character? She's like, I gotta go. I'm like, yeah, maybe you should go. But I get what you mean. I think I like that idea of using the mechanic of the missing house, because like playing games like Harvest Moon and stuff, you do get like a familiarity to like NPCs being where they should be.
And the thing is like, when you go to do the activity that character introduced you go to that house and you say like, yes, I want to continue this activity, instead of talking to the character. So you can consider doing your activity, but like you're constantly reminded, like almost everything you do like reminds you of a character. You go by the weaving station, like, oh right, yeah, this character's the one that introduced to me. You go and do this activity that you should get the research, and like, oh yeah, this character introduced me, and like they're gone. And like the thing that gives you this impact is like, you think about how the people in your life leave a lasting impact on you. They introduce you to things, and every time you do like something that reminds you, you're always reminded like, oh right, like Ken's the one that like introduced me to like do this streaming thing. Ken is the first person that made this podcast with me. Like that's always gonna stick with me. Yeah, it is like, and that's never gone, right? No one can ever take that away from us. And the game really communicates that and so many other things about saying goodbye to people, about death, and like it's a game about saying goodbye, but it's also a game about celebrating. Sorry. It's a game also about celebrating that life.
Take a moment. It's okay. Life is beautiful.
Yeah, and like, it's a game about celebrating the life that like people leave behind you. Sorry.
I hear the sentiment. I see how it can be really moving.
I think that's like just really.
Although I haven't played the game, so I'm obviously not that moved.
It's just,
yeah,
I don't know, it made me think about a lot of things, and like that more than anything else, more than like,
that's incredible.
We talk about like games as terms like mechanics and like all the things that build up to make it fun, but this game, like, it had something really profound in me.
I think that's the beauty of like when we talk about um something we think is like benign as like movies or stories, right? But like I think that the thing is that we chase in movies and our stories and games like these is like something that touches on our reality of our humanity, right?
Yeah.
And then what I loved about like the idea of this game was that very few games, almost no game right now is actually exploring what the medium can do. Most games are just trying to exploring like the same flavor, the same sweetness.
Yeah, or like
they're kind of chasing the same kind of ideas.
what is
But
fun?
I like
How do we get people coming back? What is
yeah,
exciting?
just
And
like
stuff
what's
like
the most
that.
addictive capacity in games, right? And then like if you just like say you just take life and you're like, okay, let's only look at the most addictive things in life. It's a pretty gross life, right? So like I like games like these when they try to games and movies too. Like that's what I love about movies that explore aspects of life that you have to deal with in analogies that make you think and open your eyes, right? And this is the simpleness of exactly, and you know, I wonder if the person who made original concept of this game, like what kind of loss they felt, because it's a very like realistic analogy of what losing someone feels like, right? Even if even if they haven't passed away, say you just like someone like you broke up with someone or something like that, you're constantly just looking at the things that have changed, right? Ever since that person's no longer in your life.
Yeah.
And then this game just pretty much is able to play on that exact like mechanic in an analogy that makes it a lot more profound than just the fact that, oh hey, you know, you're missing the person that like smelts your copper or whatever. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a person, right? But yeah,
Or taught you how to smelt
that's a
copper in
very
the first
like
place.
yeah. Because I think especially like as an artist, it's very easy to get caught up in the industry of art, and then you kind of forget like that there is like it's a very powerful tool, because the industry usually just does the same thing over and over again. It's trying to make action movies, it's trying to make sexy movies, it's trying to make feel good movies, whatever it is. So like, but it is like a medium that can convey very very poignant like philosophical parts about our lives, and I think games is very much so a possibility in terms of like what it could portray. Just like 99% of what we see nowadays is just the same stuff. Like do you ever play Cave Story?
Yeah.
I love that game. That game is like
really
just like
good.
on the surface is so fun, and then it's like, wow, you actually have a very very emotional story attached to this like very simple like game mechanic, right?
Cave Story is like a game that like I feel is very emblematic of our generation. Like that's the game that like I feel touched everyone in like a very special way.
If you played it, it wasn't like it was played by a lot of people more so than like you would have expected for a game that looked like that.
Well, it also was
But
like
there's a lot of
re-released
people that
like
still
so
haven't played
many
it.
times.
It's yeah. The fact that it was like re-released on Nintendo like a bunch of times was really good. But yeah, like this game feels very similar. I wasn't quite with you until you like brought up that very last point about like using that as an analogy to.
That's where it all comes together.
yeah.
Like for me,
Yeah, that's like a very
it's like
big-
it's important to
big
discuss
deal.
like the mechanics because it doesn't seem like anything special, but like what it is able to accomplish is
And the execution is very important.
and
Like, it's very very important. It's very hard to like. It's easy to make this like sloppy and cheesy, right?
and it's not like if you look at it as like a video game, it is not perfect. Like I can look at it as like an analytical point of view, and I see problems with it, right? I see problems with the pacing sometimes. I see problems with the way it introduces mechanics or it doles out rewards. There's parts where it stagnates, sure, but like all that pales in comparison to what I got out of this game, which is just so special to me, and like it goes beyond any sort of analytical lens that you can put on it, and that's
I
why
will
that's
try
why
anyways.
Sorry.
I'm gonna try anyways to put an analytical lens on
Yeah.
it.
And
Because I've been hearing about this. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you finish first.
The thing, forgot what my point was. I was going somewhere with this. Yeah, I lost it.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, I
okay.
interrupted your train of thought. Now I lost my train of thought because I can't remember what I was gonna say.
So the thing that ended up getting to in this game is that I know it is not the best game that has come out this year, like as a whole, but it is my favorite game that I have played this year. And like I need to think about it very strongly after this, because it might be my favorite game of like this generation. It might be my favorite game of a long time. Right? Like I can't remember last time I had such a very relatable and emotional reaction to a game before. It's frequent when like I cry at a game because of the story that it tells me. I'm very like emotional in that sort of way. It is extremely rare that I cry or get emotional in the game because I related to something that it was trying to say. Right?
What's this movement right now? It's like wave dashing and wave landing. It looks so sick.
Yep, this is like sort of the abilities you get. So when you build up to a sloped ceiling, like that, you start getting slides, and that gives you like a different boost in different directions if you jump off of it in a different angle.
That looks like melee. It looks like some amazing fighter mechanic. I like that a lot.
Oh yeah, like also make no bones about it. The movement in this game is extremely good.
It's kind of rare for a game like this. Often heavy-handed animation games are stiff on movement. Like yeah.
Well, the Thunder Lotus has a lot of pedigree with that. They made Jotun, or however you want to pronounce it. In the past, that Viking game where you're slating Jotuns. And Sundered, which was a sort of Castlevania-ish Metroid-style game that's extremely punishing. Both games like very focused on movement, and all are hand animated, very beautiful games. This game, very different, but animated in the same sort of style.
Yeah, so I remember what I was gonna say. So what I think when I hear what you just said, because you said that like you notice that there are logistical gameplay failings, or at least shortcomings in certain areas, right? But it doesn't seem to matter in the grand scheme of what this game brings. And so what I've been learning a little bit about as I explore like Buddhism a bit further is just the idea that emotions are not logical, right? So like you feel like in this sense here, the gameplay mechanic is not good, or is not as good as it could be, for example, right? But because you have an emotional reaction to it, it overrides your logical side where you say like, hey, like this game should be bad. It's the same thing for us if someone has like our fear of speaking, and then like, there's no reason for them not to like speak in public, but then they emotionally make a decision because they have an emotional reaction. So I wonder if that's like a key component in the development of storytelling and emotion in games, because like everyone, there's always like this competition that comes out when the story game comes out, where they always like rail on it for its gameplay mechanic. And then, people who love the game usually defend, like, let's say, like, Last of Us, right? Like, they're not like they bring any new gameplay mechanic that is particularly new in games, besides, like, a few key types of, like, maybe open world types of interactions, right? But, like, it's a shooter, it's a pretty basic shooter, right? But the emotional side of the game, I think, like, allows you to turn off a very critical part. And as gamers, I think we have the overactive critical part of games, because we're always trying to like compare.
it disguises the part, like this and like the art, music and artistry and all that disguises the fact that on a gameplay basis you're walking around that game and left trigger, right trigger for shooting, and pressing actually
Like
picks stuff up.
let me relate it to, like, let's say you, some of the older, like we were talking about Seven Samurai, right? Like, how come that movie with like the most basic of tools in film, like, can still hold up to some of the films today, right? Like this movie that is in black and white, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because like it's a combination of like emotional storytelling, and they focus on the emotion well enough that like that's the main thing that we're focusing on. We're not focusing on these like big open vista sets or whatever, but you don't really need it, right?
It's a very
Like, do
intimate
you know what I mean?
story, like in that way, right? It's very focused on
Yeah.
its characters, but I think
Yeah.
also that's a weird one to talk about because Akira Kurosawa is very influential in cinematography. Like a lot of his shots that were new at the time. Like if you watch Seven Samurai and then you watch the original 13 Assassins, like there's just no comparison. Like Akira Kurosawa's like conversations, dialogues, and like the emotion, the way he frames those sorts of revelations between the character are
Yeah.
so much more intimate than in 13 Assassins, which is a movie that's more about spectacle and intrigue than anything else, right?
Well, I would like offer this point that composition and cinematography in movies oftentimes is about, like, if you do it well, you can take the same scene but you like exponentially increase the emotion attached to it. You know, like if you have a two shot of a person talking to another person, there's a very boring way to shoot that, and there's a very possible emotional way to shoot that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that what we're talking about is like, you know, the cinematography is what allowed him to have like a higher level of emotion in the shot, but the sets, for example, are, you know, they're very limited as to what they were working on, right? Compared to like movies now where you have sets of like CG possibilities that could look amazing, but you feel nothing. Like, how many times have you seen like New York blown up in Superman movie, and you're like, I feel nothing to this all this destruction. It looks so real, whatever it is, right? But you can get like a movie like Cloverfield Lane, 13 Cloverfield Lane, where it's like shot in the basement of someone's house, and it feels way bigger, right? Like it feels so much more important, right?
It's interesting, like how you say, like, oh my God, New York is devastated. This is horrible, and you're like, nah. And it's just like, this girl's cat has gone missing, and I'm like, oh my God, is she gonna find the cat again?
Yeah.
She's devastated.
It's so true, right? Like in the same way, this thing, it's like this game is offering you a very like, seemingly simple like gameplay mechanic, but the emotion and storytelling is what like allows this game to be probably even worse than it is in terms of gameplay mechanic, and like get away with a lot more stuff, which is not a bad thing. Like, come on, like it's like you can't be perfect in every area, and then you have to find the right combination in a game that like gets people to like buy into all the good stuff as well as like forgive all the bad stuff, right?
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't think any of the mechanics of itself in the game are bad or overly simple. I think they're exactly right for the amount that they need to be, and it's varied enough in that way.
But how many times have we as like a community was like, yo, this game is so amazing, it does everything okay, like it does everything pretty good. Like a game
That's
that
true.
comes out, like say a Call of Duty game, like a shooter in a super competitive industry, like a category, like a new battle royale, it just does everything up pretty good. It's gonna fail terribly, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to fail,
Like
right?
for those
So
games to be
I think-
successful, like Call of Duty is like the shooting needs to be the best shooting you have ever felt in a game.
yes,
And like
yeah,
that's
exactly,
why
right?
that game is popular. They
Yeah.
have the best
Well,
shooting.
otherwise,
in the
the
industry.
current popular one stays popular, right?
Yeah.
So like this game to be able to be like pretty good in all areas of gameplay means that it needs to excel somewhere else, right?
You know what game is a good example of that? And I hate to bring this up. It's Fortnite.
Listen, you can hate Fortnite, but you need to respect what it is as a cultural phenomenon in our lives.
That game
right?
does everything like okay, but like the amount of color and the character and everything else in it, and like just the sheer marketing push into it.
I will argue as a person who played early Fortnite days, it did have something quite spectacular in its building mechanic. Like, that is very, very unique, right? That is literally kind of what Fortnite is about. But I think that it allowed it to grow in a genre that was completely empty, so it grew huge. And then now, even though Fortnite is just kind of good at everything, it's already the biggest thing out there, right? So what I meant by the other analogy is, like, for a new game to come out to dethrone anybody, it has to be so much better in a particular area or something that's super unique to be able to, like, even make a dent. Because otherwise, like, there's like, customers would rather just stay to the same thing that they know, right? Like, they know this is good. Like, why do they kind of risk it to go something else?
And even if it is better, that doesn't even mean they'll stick around. Like Apex.
Yeah.
Apex is like objectively, like, come on. It is objectively a better shooter than Fortnite. It's made by the
as a shooter for 100%.
yeah. Like it's
purely shooting.
It's objectively like the better of the two, and yet Fortnite is still the dominant one.
Yeah, well, I think that that's exactly what we're talking about. It's just like when you have a monopoly, and you can have monopoly in games too. Like, it happens a lot. Yeah. Or, like, there's a monopoly in, like, look at sports games. A lot of sports games have only one game that you can play if you really want to play that sport game, right?
Yeah.
So I think that when there is a monopoly, it's very hard to dethrone the king, because the king. Like, how hard was it to dethrone World of Warcraft? And has World of Warcraft ever been dethroned?
Yeah.
Like, questionable, right?
I don't even know if it's been dethroned, but I think it adopted it married Final Fantasy 14.
14 has been doing very, very good, actually. Yeah,
it's like, and either you prefer one parent or you prefer the other parent. It's
the best.
Some people like World of Warcraft.
Like
some people like Final Fantasy 14.
And then now, what's the new one? The new one I heard has actually been getting pretty interesting reviews. What's it called? There is a new medieval type MMO out
there. Type MMO.
Yes, it's. I think it's in alpha or beta or something. Never, I'm not gonna remember it.
There are so many medieval.
But there's another
MMOs
one.
that
there's another one, and of course, whenever a new one comes out, everyone touts it as, like, the new WoW killer.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So sorry to get sidetracked. Do you have anything else for Spiritfarer?
Go play.
You got me sold. I might try. I think I'm gonna check it out at least.
Go play Spiritfarer. Learn, love, live, laugh.
Okay, that's not a good sell anymore. Okay, that movie has been tainted by all the Karens that are out there.
What movie?
Who have it on their wall. The live, laugh, love.
Oh, sorry. I didn't even mean to. Like, sorry. I was actually going through, like, my own emotions.
Oh.
Go play Spiritfarer. It is my favorite game of 2020. You'll love it.
Possibly for the rest of your life now. Favorite game for the rest of your life.
It's like, it's gotten to the point where it made me solidify the types of games that I'm going to be interested in making, right? Like, playing that game, as a creator, I was always more interested in making games that are not violent, and if they are violent, that violence has to have some sort of reason, right? I'm not too interested in making just another sort of action game.
What do you mean you need a reason? Doom needs a reason?
Sorry?
What if the reason is... What if Doom...
I really love Doom. like don't get me wrong. I love these sorts of, like, action games. I love action games. But
the games that you want to make yourself.
I'm speaking like me, as in what I'm interested in making as myself, like what I want to contribute to, like, this industry.
There's an oversaturation of that.
I worked on Gears. I love action games. Like, come on, don't get me wrong. I love playing those types of games with my friends, but like, as a creator, I'm more interested in, like, exploring, like, non-violent sort of games and, like, what the potential is on there. Like, I have, like, 6, like, games in my head that I want to make, and, like, only one of them, it has, like, direct, like, conflict because I want to say something with that.
But you don't have conflict in your other ones? You must have some sort of conflict.
You have conflict, just not direct conflict.
Oh, I see. This passive aggressive conflict.
Yeah, you just throw shade on your enemies.
Yeah, you just kind of, like...
You gotta shame them.
You leave notes to each other. You talk about each other on each other's back.
So it's an office simulator.
Right. Yeah, the new Office 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, that made me see like, no, there's definitely potential here, and people are doing amazing stuff in this space, and I'm just really glad this game exists. You know, I'm really glad I played it.
This game came out of nowhere for me. What was the studio you said?
Thunder Lotus
made it?
Yeah.
Thunder Lotus.
Yeah, they were on
and
my
so have
radar
they made a lot of
well.
other? I don't think I know a lot about their studio. What other games have they made again?
Jotun and Sundered.
Oh right, Jotun. Yeah,
they are a.
We looked at the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, they are a 20 to 30 player. They're a 20 to 30 employee studio out in Montreal.
You know, it feels like the sub. I want to say 80, but probably even lower than that. Studios are the ones that have the flexibility to do something this off the cuff, because you couldn't sell this in a marketing. Like most people don't understand that most games aren't dictated by like what gamers like. Like most of it is like dictated by what kind of ideas can actually filter up through like 500 people in a AAA studio, right? And it takes like, you know, a lot of clout in or, you know, credibility from any individual voice to really sell an idea to everyone else. And so like really far left ideas were like it's hard for me to imagine Naughty Dog coming out with a game like this where like all you're doing is building like, you know, on like a Spiritfaring like ship, and it's like some sort of like romancing spirit simulator where you're taking like, it's a very out there game. And, you know, I'm not saying that like knocking it at all, but it's like a game that like, you know, a AAA studio would never do.
Yeah.
Because I think that like 30 people, yeah, I think that you can get like 30 people on board, but it's very difficult to get like a large amount of people on board.
And you can kind of see the trajectory that they've made to get here, like making Jotun and Sundered, which are extremely action heavy games, and like Jotun was smaller scale, and then they made Sundered, which is like larger scale, big open map, and like more Castlevania, Metroidvania style. And like, oh, well, what can we do next if we hit like this peak of like action adventure? Like, what if you make something where you never kill anything, you never attack anything, and like we tell a more closer relationship based story.
I like that they would challenge themselves.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, companies are risk adverse, and most companies won't challenge themselves won't put themselves in a situation where they have to do more, like they're expected to fail.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were to like write out the elevator pitch for this game, people would be like, yeah, it's probably gonna fail. Like, you know, like if out of 100
I'd be
games,
extremely interested in it. Like right? I was but yeah, then you're like, I don't know how well it's doing, right? You don't see it like on Twitch, and you
right, exactly. We still don't know if it's...
There's only one person in our office, like, and I talk to a lot of people in our office, like I'm extremely sociable. Only one person has played it, and she loves it.
Well, the nice thing about games like this, how much is it cost, by the way? Do you remember?
I believe it is either I think it's $20 American and 30 Canadian.
Right. So like a game like this, I feel like they don't need to have as high margins to break even as other games. So like that's the kind of like you would hope. There's been games where I was like, wow, that game must have been really cheap to make, and you find out the actual development process is like $70 million or something like that. Like I've been shocked that way before, but like a game like this, like it would make sense if you were to take a big risk like this, that you don't put like crazy amounts of resources into it, so that you don't have to like sell as many copies to make it up. But I hope it does, because it just seemed like like the animation was great. It seemed like a very quality game.
I would love for Thunder Lotus to keep making games. Looks like this game took 3 years to make as well.
3 years, wow.
Yeah.
It must have been a side team. Yeah.
Last game, Sundered, was in 2017.
Oh, okay. So it was their entire team working on this then.
It's a small team, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And looks like
that sounds about right, actually.
It's $30 American, 33 Canadian. Also free on Game Pass, though.
Nice.
All right. Well, speaking from small studios making very large games that cause emotional reactions in people, Why don't you talk to
Yeah,
me about what
yeah.
you've been playing lately?
Yeah, so I've been playing No Man's Sky for the first time. So like I'm not I didn't have my head in the sand for all of the drama. Like I was watching it. I was watching as a person that never bought into it in the first place. Not because like, I'm super smart and I predicted it, because I just didn't really care. For whatever reason, right? So when it came out, and like I think we were at the same office when it came out. Do you think we were both at Archaeact when it came out? Because I remember like the office,
Yes.
a lot of people were
Yes.
playing in
No,
the office.
we were because it was
Yeah.
when I was going to go to E3 to show off our game at Archaeact, and
Yeah.
I remember our coworker that was going with me was really upset that he was like gonna have to go through E3 first before he could play No Man's Sky, because I think it came out in July or something.
Yeah. And people were like, I'm taking the week off or something like that, right? They're like, dude,
Just
I'm going.
fanfare
Like,
around
the way they were talking about it, it was like they were. What was that guy? Cypher in the Matrix. He was like, plug me back in, okay? Like, I just want to taste meat again.
I want this steak. I want this No Man's Sky steak.
So
this is
and then,
where like
dude,
always bothered me.
It was hilarious to me too. The inevitable crash that came after it, like
I could
like,
not
the day
have
after,
predicted
like,
it was it would be like the dramatic reveal that it sorry, not the dramatic reveal, the dramatic backlash that it did get, because I was looking at things, because for a long time you were looking at this thing and like, what is this game? What are you actually making? And then like
what are you
as
selling
like
right
I
now?
read like a ton of articles, I understood like,
yeah.
oh, you're not making an exploration game, you're making a crafting game. That's like with
See,
all this
like, I
random
think people
generalization.
forget
Yeah.
how big the anomaly of this, because this crossed the video game barrier. Like there's a if you're a gamer, you might be so deep in games that you don't see the visible universe, because like everywhere you look there's just gamers and nerds and everything like that.
People that
But,
like read every article, like
Yeah,
understand
exactly, right?
all the
But
mechanics before the game comes out.
in the bigger world, the gamer society is like smaller. It's growing for sure, right? But it's not as big. But then this game, Sean Murphy, I think is the
Sean Murray.
name of Sean Murray, right? Dude, he was going on like talk shows with like Oprah and talking to
this
like celebrities about this game.
5-person team plus plus assistants.
Yeah, the team is so small. The team was like 28 or 30 at the start or something, right? Like when they first made the announcement. So do you remember the historical chronological set of events that happened?
Yeah, it was announced on the Sony studio, on the Sony stage.
No.
At
So
E3,
so
right?
before that, so they made 2 games before that. The first game was like kind of a pretty big success.
Oh, you mean like even that? Yeah, it was
just the lead up to
Daredevil
it to
Joe
see what
or
happened.
Joe Danger.
Joe Danger, right? The first one was pretty well received. The second one didn't do as well, right? And then they wanted to like try something new, and so Sean Murray edited together like a demo video of No Man's Sky, right? And it just happened to look freaking amazing the way he edited it, right? And the things that it said it could do, right? And none of the things that it said it could do was like he was real, like he's a good engineer, and he explained it in a very logical way where you're like, yeah, it could happen, right? Just like you've been in these meetings as a game designer too, right? Like, we can do this, and then the reality sinks of like how hard it is to troubleshoot and bug fix and blah blah blah, and then your development comes to a grinding stop. That's pretty much what happened, because he released that hype video.
Reality.
Sony signed them, right? So,
Yeah.
so Sony signed them was what you were talking about when then they got featured by Sony, and then suddenly like they were from the get go. On the hook for this massive list of features that like there was no way this 30-man team was gonna be able to do this in like 6 months or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so but that was like in the past, and then as they released it, everyone was upset about all these missing features. But now, and they slowly like added a bunch of stuff in. Now there's like live multiplayer, there's there's like building. There was always crafting. It is a crafting game. I don't care what anyone says. It's a crafting game.
they've significantly improved the depth to their crafting.
There's buildings, there's
Yeah.
vehicles, there's space stations, there are freight carriers. This game has content out the butt now. And then enter
Now,
Ken
for
Ha.
sure.
What do you think?
So I entered it into like an even lower pool of expectations. Because I feel like I had a very opposite reaction to anyone who played this game from launch. Which, just to go back to a moment, I thought it was so funny. Like in the office, it was like it wasn't immediate. Like people weren't ready to be like, "Yo, this game sucks," right? Like a fresh game comes out, there's always like both sides arguing about the game's good or bad. Like no, like look at like The Last of Us. There's so much hate on both sides, right? And so, so the first thing comes by, and everyone's like, I'm asking them because I'm like very curious as to how good the game is, right? And these guys they're like, I'm playing it all night. I'm like, I'll do it, nothing but playing this, right? And so I asked them, and they're just like, it's a very calm, like it's okay. Like they're trying to talk about like an abusive spouse, like she's, they only hit me sometimes. It only crashes sometimes.
Yeah.
It only crashes sometimes. And when it doesn't crash when I don't do this. As long as I engage it properly, it doesn't crash. Right?
If I don't push the game's buttons, it won't crash.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, right? And then I think it was like day 2 or 3 that like all of them turned, and there was something like, this goddamn game lied to us. But okay, so that was the one side of it.
For me. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry, that was one side of it. Like the most ridiculous expectations. People were expecting this game to like find them a girlfriend and a spouse and like get married and stuff, right? And then for me, way after, and so like you said, in the meantime, dude, they've like overhauled the game so much, and all the things that they've tried to do, like they've promised to do, like that it seems like they at least tried to implement in some way or another. Maybe not the full functionality, right? And then for me, I'm coming over from an even lower perspective in that I wanted this game as a VR game to play, right? And if you're comparing this game to a VR game, this game is The Last of Us, right? This game is like that level of quality, because like first off, like the depth of the game for a VR game is massive. There's very few games that have this level of depth, and almost all of them are full conversion games like this, right? The only other game that I can think of that parallels is, and it makes sense, Elite Dangerous, which is essentially what this game really wants to be a simplified version of, right? And in that regard, dude, I liked it a lot from what I saw. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I immediately saw the shallow waters compared to Elite Dangerous. Right, because like it's almost the same game. You get a ship, Elite Dangerous. You don't have to build your own ship, and there's less of that like first person Minecraft element to it. But Elite Dangerous has like, dude, you can go into like the weapon modules, and each of them have like power supplies, and each weapon module has like freaking different classes. Blah blah blah.
The game has a big economy.
The game is high depth, but that's not to say that it's necessarily better, because man, the depth is so deep that when I'm playing in VR, I don't have the mental capacity to freaking look up star charts and then figure out commodity markets and figure out how to exploit trade markets and stuff like that. I wanted a game that was kind of like Elite Dangerous, where I can kind of disconnect my brain in VR. Everything works right off the bat. It's great that you can like jump into your cockpit and actually control with like regular VR controls. You don't have to like get a special controller or anything like that. It doesn't work amazingly, but it works enough for you to like kind of just get lost in like having fun and experiencing like really weird celestial bodies and stuff like that. So in that end, I'm having fun, and I still think it's too pricey, even now, like even with all the improvements at $60. But I think that it's like it's not that bad. I think unless it's on sale, I think it's regular $60, but you get all the previous like updates since it's all free, right?
Oh yeah, it's always been free. Yeah, it's a $60 Canadian. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I think it should be a $40 game, and I think it would have been like such a good value, dude. But if this game came out this game came out as a $20 game, I think it's a completely different like reaction that they had too, because this game is a case study in like incorrect expectations ruining game releases.
Also, like an insane marketing like pitch.
insane marketing pitch that
Like
they kept pitching.
they let the story of the game get away from what the game actually is.
Mm-hmm.
They actively
So, yeah,
encouraged it.
What do you think about how they handled it and
It's
what? Yeah.
it's hard for me to like really talk about this with distancing myself from how I feel about crafting games in general.
Yeah.
Because I was excited about this game at first because of like I thought it was like going to be an exploration focused game, or like more emphasis on that part of it, right? To be like unique things to find, or like stuff that no one had seen before, and that sort of the challenges would be different. But the core challenge and the core loop of this game is a crafting game. It is sorry, not a crafting game. I'm using the wrong term. A survival game, right? Managing food, managing. Do you manage food in that game? I don't even remember anymore.
You manage your like oxygen supply level and like hazard like requirements and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's that sort of thing, like managing oxygen, collecting the right resources so you can like get fuel for your ship. All this stuff that gets in the way from the thing that I was interested in doing, which is the exploration, right? Which like I'm not sure if it would be a better game or a worse game than that, because like you can't divorce the game from that. It was designed to be a survival game. And I inherently don't like those games. Like, I don't find them interesting. And I know there's always going to be a game, the genre that you're just going to go, yeah, this is just not for me. Like, I've tried them. I've tried so many survival games. They just aren't for me. So it's hard for me to like analyze like how this game like improved over time, because I've jumped back into it in like Beyond, and I played like a good like 5 hours of it. And I just don't like the core loop of the game. I don't like having to manage my oxygen. I don't like that I have to keep refueling my ship. I don't like that there's a random chance of me finding anything good or worthwhile. I don't like that my resources can be expended and I can get nothing for them. I just don't like it. And and it's hard for me to tell if that's a legitimate criticism of the game, or if it's just not the genre for me. Because
I would
many
have
people
to ask,
enjoy it.
like, you need to figure out why you don't like it. Like, I guess it's just
I don't like
mechanic.
it because like I've played, like if you look at Spiritfarer, it is a crafting game. It's a game about getting resources and like advancing stories through characters by getting stuff and making that stuff give you more stuff.
But
like,
it's not a survival
basic
game.
Video game ingredients, right? Do this thing to get more of this thing so you can do more things, right?
Yeah.
The thing that No Man's Sky does is like it takes more away than it gives, and in order to like get something, you have to put so much into it, right?
Yeah.
The cost benefit
analysis.
Yeah, the cost benefit analysis for it was just. I did not get to a point where I felt like I was getting more out of the game than I was having to put in. And that's where it broke down for me. I could build stuff, sure. I didn't really understand why I would ever want to come back to a planet, other than like for the fact that like, oh, I made a base. This is the thing I did. So many of the...
Yeah.
I'm getting agitated. I'm knocking my mic around. So many things that like I feel like this game adds, and like why I always had a problem with it every time I say like, oh, is No Man's Sky better now? Is because No Man's Sky keeps doing this, right?
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
building upon
I
a
100%
foundation that I don't enjoy. It doesn't matter what they add to it if the core like 5-minute, 20-minute, and 40-minute loops are not things I like doing. I
have a
like
theory.
playing the game, you know?
I have a
the
theory
problem.
that's not actually their core loop that they wanted to have. My theory, like, so looking at what the game's become now, all the stuff that they've added in, it's hard for me not to see how desperately they've copied Elite Dangerous.
Really?
Right? Look at the star bases. They're practically Elite Dangerous star bases. The same kind of mechanic in terms of like lighting. They're cubes or like spheres that have the entrance to them is taken almost directly from Elite Dangerous, right? So the whole point I'm getting at is my theory is that when they were making this game, they had a massive list of features that were a lot of them were crafted from Elite Dangerous, and you know probably the premise was good too. They wanted to create a game that was a simpler version of Elite Dangerous, which I still want. I want that game, right? But because they don't have enough resources, they cut back to what is the most easy to perpetuate into a infinitely sprawling galaxy, which is a extremely simple crafting survival loop, right? Especially when you look at the first base game, dude, that's all you were doing. You were literally just like mining materials to increase storage space, right?
Yeah.
Like there was nothing else to do, right? And to be honest, you're right. It hasn't changed that much, because everything they're adding it onto. It's like when I see they're just looking at what another movie has done and they're just trying to copy it, right? But they don't understand the base reasoning that the original game Elite Dangerous has those mechanics, right? Like you have fuel. Because you have fuel and stuff like that, because that game feels extremely first thing is big. It feels very, very big, and it feels very like unforgivingly barren. Like you can land your ship accidentally, which I've literally done, a very expensive ship, onto a planet that's way bigger than you expected, because scale's kind of messed up, and it has like 10 times gravity, and you're going the same speed, but because the gravity's like visually it looks like you're going the same speed, but the gravity's way higher, and so you land and you just blow up because you didn't fucking look at the fact that this is a super high grav planet. So it's super unforgiving. So the survival aspect, like everything has a high level of reward to it when something is that unforgiving, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the kind of base that Elite Dangerous, and they own it, dude. Like they don't give a f that their game is not like Star Wars Rogue Squadron or whatever it is, right? They love the idea that it's space trucker sim plus a bit more, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that, and they really lean into it. So all the mechanics that I see them having in No Man's Sky now, like especially with the fleet carriers that showed up. You're familiar with that like update when they added in?
I know they show up,
freighters?
and then you can like attack them, and you can also buy one, and those sort of mechanics. But I did not get far enough into the game to experience it.
Okay, so in Elite Dangerous, if I were to tell you, which is they also did this too, right? Like,
oh, okay.
When they introduce fleet carriers, like, what's the first thing you would want to do if you were in a position to get like a carrier or something like that?
Can I walk around on it?
You can walk around it. Can I fly it? Blah 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 blah. Right? Like, especially the flying part. Like every ship is about flying, right? In that game, that's one of the coolest parts, right? Like the devastating part was when they added it in here in this game. I was like, that's very cool. And then I realized you can't fly any of them.
Oh.
Like you get on them and they're just mobile bases, and they're essentially like those little phone games where you like send a dude on a mission and he comes back in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And you just buy more of them.
You mean the fourth tier Ubisoft style missions?
Yeah. Yeah. It's essentially that, which is like kind of annoying because the ships look cool, and I want to have like, I don't know, I want to go into a giant space battle or something like that where I can lose half of them.
You want to launch them
broadsides. But no, I just send them on like grocery lists. And like even the ones that are like attack missions, I don't get to see them. They're just like, this is an attack mission.
Yeah.
You send the attack ship on it. Right? So like it doesn't seem to have that basis on like a core element.
I think this touches on the core issue that like I had with both these games. Like Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky are two games that I bounced off of for different reasons, except that I actually want to go back and get and play Elite Dangerous one day.
Yeah, we should do it together, dude. I got so into it for a while.
Oh my god, please, like, take my hand and guide me, because I would like to get into that game.
The key is you have to use the internet database. They have a galactic database where you can look up prices and look up trade routes.
I got that far into it, right? And like I've forgotten how to do it anymore, but like I did get far enough to like do a trade that was worth something. But the problem that I have with Elite Dangerous is it's not really a problem. It's just the type of game it is. And it's the opposite problem I had with No Man's Sky. Elite Dangerous I bounced off of because there was so much I could do. I did not know what I should do.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Yeah.
No Man's Sky I had the problem with is like I knew what I wanted to do and the game didn't want me to do it. like I know what I wanted to do, but the game is like, you only have 4 inventory slots. Do this instead, and then maybe we'll let you play. Do you want to have a fleet? You need to get this much money. You want to get this money? Do these boring tasks. You have to do so much stuff that I don't like in order to do the stuff that I might like.
Although I gotta say, that's how I feel about Elite Dangerous too.
Yeah.
Like I want to do space combat. This is why I love Elite Dangerous for what it is, but I also, that's not the game that I want to play like the most right now. I want to play Rogue Squadron, right? But
yeah.
They don't want to do that. their combat is not that it's bad, but dude, it's so you have to scratch so deep to get to it. Like, you know how many licks it takes to get to this end of a Tootsie roll?
Yeah.
This is like 7 million licks and they expect me to like I was going on like for example to do one.
You just want to bite into
mission.
the Tootsie Roll.
Yeah, like to do one that's exactly what like No Man's Sky is. It's nothing but that candy bit, but you realize that's just like pure sugar. And that's gross. Like you don't want any of that either. Like the No Man's Sky gives you everything relatively for free compared to like Elite Dangerous.
I don't know about that.
I would say that easy, but it's just gateway behind time. Elite Dangerous it's not just behind time. You can go and spend like 2 hours to get to a distant star, probably exaggerating, let's say 45 minutes, and then realize you're missing one part, and there's literally no way to finish the mission that you were there for without going to another station that's like a million miles, like another 45 minutes away, which has happened so many times, right? To me,
that's a sim life, you know.
That's the sim life, right?
That's that style of game, man.
Exactly.
You gotta have attention to detail, and that's a different type of gameplay loop. And I almost prefer that. I almost prefer like high chance of messing up terribly and wasting your time. I prefer that to No Man's Sky, which is just a steady drain of doing things I don't enjoy. And like, if people enjoy that, I'm not gonna knock it against them. Like, I can look at No Man's Sky and say like, yeah, okay. If you like a survival game, if you like that sort of appeal and you like that sort of challenge, this is a game with a lot of stuff in it that you can absolutely enjoy. And it's just not for me. It's just not for me. That's why I don't want to be too hard on it.
Like it.
I don't want to be too hard on it because of that. Because I don't think it is an absolute like crap game like a lot of people are fond to say. I don't. I just think it's not the kind of game that I'm interested in.
Well, also it was a game that was destroyed by incorrect expectations from the get-go.
I feel like marketing books could be written about this game.
I'm sure it is. This is like, you know, like like in textbooks 101 for games. But like you do have to commend them for the fact that they just stuck their head down. They did another thing.
I don't understand how they make money on this game, to be honest with you.
You know how they did it is because they made a ton of money
on that
for
initial?
their first games. On their initial games, and they just kept working through. And it's also a
but they're not selling
company,
the DLC, right? They're not selling the DLC.
No, they're not. But I think that's why.
Where's the continued
it's such an
money
interesting story
come
because
from?
They decided to take the L, and just say that they're going to give back to the community. This is my head, by releasing all these updates without selling. Because how many games have done poorly off a release? And then continue to monetize off a poor game. Look at Fallout 76.
Well,
like
generally, when games do poorly, they don't sell. But the problem is like everyone and their dog bought No Man's Sky.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like what I would expect from another game, like Battlefront. You know, let's say what Star Wars Battlefront had a lot of like issues with the early game.
Too.
They were still coming out with like monetary like packs and like things to try to cash in on that community that felt like they were
Battlefront 2?
Yeah, Battlefront 2. Sorry,
I don't think so. They didn't sell any DLC for that game for like a long while.
I could be wrong. I could be thinking of a different game. But anyways, there's a lot of my point is that there's a lot of games that come out with community, let's say, outrage, and then they kind of double down by not like either just trying to play off the outrage and then continuing to monetize, right? Whereas this game, like the fact that they didn't try to monetize further and released like, let's say, I don't know how many, it was like 6 to 8 updates since that initial release. That's a lot of goodwill to be throwing back at your community.
They turned a single player game into kind of an MMO.
Dude, that's a very impressive thing. The fact that they were able to get multiplayer code working.
Like, it's worth acknowledging that. Does it make it a better game? I don't think so. I think it almost even makes it a worse game if you spawn on a planet with someone that's just like ruining your day. I've heard stories about that happening.
I think it's better the possibility to play with someone. But my point is, like the finished product might not be as good as other games, but I think that it's nice to see a company to not put money first, right? Like, it seems so ridiculous for us to even just, like, it seems so silly for me to make that, like, something to give someone an award for, is to, like, hey, when you, like, screw a bunch of people out of expectations, you should, like, do your best to, like make amends. But no company tries to make amends,
Yeah.
I feel like, in
I
any
mean,
significant way.
They probably made millions off of this game, and they had to like pay 5 salaries.
But the thing is, they could just go on and make the next game. They didn't have to keep working on No Man's Sky.
It's true.
Right? They have that money already. They can.
Yeah.
They have, like, essentially a free reign and depth
Yeah.
to whatever they want to do, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it does speak to me to the fact that, like, there is something else going on with the team besides, like, a straight monetary, like, call, and I can kind of believe it.
Well,
you know, like, I think
here's the thing that I always believed about this team is, like, they do care about this game, right? These are indie developers, and they really care about the product they want to make. Like, you can see it when, like, Sean Murray, like, used to talk about this game, about he always saw, like, the electronica cover art, and, like, that's the game I want to make, all the super, and, like, that's what the art looks like. I can tell, like, this project means a lot to him, and he really wants it to be good, and it's almost like he's making the game. They're making the game for themselves at that point, right?
Which I love, too. Like, one of my favorite games of all time right now, Path of Exile, is just done by a team that's making a game for, like, themselves and their community. And I it's one of the few, like, games that are able to do that. And because I think those are the best games. I think that's why D&D is so good, is because, like, you know, the people who are making the game, essentially making the campaigns, are the ones playing it, so they're making it for themselves. What's so annoying in other games is when you get, like, a AAA studio game and it feels like they're making it for some Joe Schmo who doesn't play games. Like, isn't that the worst feeling when you play a game and it feels like it's dumbed down for someone else to get them intro into the game? Right?
Yeah,
just like, God,
I
want someone who wants to play this game.
I had that feeling playing the Avengers beta.
Oh, you got in, dude.
No, it was open for everyone. I hear actually the beta did the game a really big disservice, because people say that story campaign is actually really good and very emotional, and Kamala Khan is an amazing character that, in a way, that, like, actually makes me want to play that. But boy,
some of the writing I didn't see was very good.
What? They skipped
I saw some
lot.
clips of the writing.
They skipped a lot. They skipped a lot. Like, apparently the beta, like, skips, like, a good 3 hours, 2 hours of the story.
They just drop you in somewhere or something?
Yeah, where, like, her character has already reached a certain point, like, before. They say the parts early on are, like, super endearing, which is a shame that they skipped that, and they got flack for that, because, like, hey, good writing should be acknowledged, and people really like it. So,
yeah,
I'm willing to look at the game as a second chance.
I wasn't sure how to feel about the game.
Yeah, no, I didn't enjoy playing it. This stuff with, like, the loot stuff and, like, making it like a games as a service thing and the replayable multiplayer, like, all of it just felt very, like, just
games as a service makes my I don't know. I don't like that taste in my mouth.
Here's the thing. If it's made in a game that like is, I don't know how to say this. It's not like it was made with the intention of making it, but like Destiny 2 is a games as a service game, and I really enjoy that. And even though it doesn't hit at all the strides that I really like it, I still come back to it because the core of that game is extremely good. Okay. And the games as a service parts just gives me more reasons to engage with a core that I absolutely enjoy.
I think the problem is that term has been co-opted by a bunch of people that try to sell shitty games by saying games as a service, and they just try to sell shitty marketing practices.
You know, all this, like, battle pass stuff and things like and things like that. I generally don't like it because it keeps me playing a game that I don't like. For
battle pass,
it makes me take a game that, like, I enjoy playing, and makes me play it longer than I want to. That's a very careful. That's a very careful balancing act they have to do to give enough stuff that you want to come back to versus punishing you for not playing this game more than you want to. And I think the only game I've played that I've hit, like, I love Call of Duty. I cannot do the battle passes because they're stupidly long, and like it burned me out on the game, right?
Yeah.
The only game that I played that had a battle pass that, like, hit that perfect balance was Crash Team Racing Nitro Refueled. Because that was a great racing game, and I really loved playing it.
What did they do differently?
The battle pass is short. You can get through it in, like, 20 hours of gameplay. There was challenges that got you playing different modes in different ways. And it gave you a reason to play multiplayer, and, like, your XP bar would go up. and it would give you challenges every single day that were like pretty easy to do and knock out in like a good 30 minutes. And you'd be playing CTR, which they just happened to make the best kart racing game. Move over Mario Kart. CTR is better than Mario Kart. I will stand by that statement. And they gave you reason to keep engaging with it.
So what sounds more interesting to me was the fact that you pointed out the fact that I think that companies are getting way too greedy with the battle passes, not in terms of the pricing, but like people need to understand all the the battle pass accomplishes for a company is time spent playing the game.
Yeah.
They want to increase that, right?
Yeah.
And they're asking way too much.
Yes.
It's like they're saying that you need to play like hundreds of hours
200
to
hours
complete this
over the
battle
course
pass.
of 3 months.
Over the course, it's so
or less.
It's so frustrating. I 100% agree, and it's the fact that every time a freaking mechanic is given to the marketing side of a games company, they push it to the absolute extremes of what it could be.
Yeah.
Right. Like loot boxes, I don't think are inherently evil as a system to deliver goods as an incentive.
Not at all.
In fact, there is how long did Overwatch do it before? Like, did that really affect their bottom line? How many people bought loot boxes? I feel like a lot of people did, right? And I actually like they probably had one of the better loot box systems.
They still had duplicates, and that's a problem.
They still had duplicates, yes. But I would even argue that was like a new thing that people didn't even know was a problem yet.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time loot boxes came out, right? So
here's the thing about.
But then what happens to every other
game?
games? No, my thing is simple. It's other companies take it and they just try to exploit it, and so now it's like loot boxes are 0.0000% chance or something like that, right?
My thing with it, and like it always comes back to like the design of the game. If I'm playing a game that's like long term, I should be able to play between 30 minutes to an hour and get something I want out of that game. And I should be able to say, I'm going to play this game for 30 minutes to an hour, and I know I'm going to get something I care about. Here's what CTR did. CTR had no loot boxes, but it did have a rotating shop. The rotating shop would have one character, one bundle with a character and a car, and then one of each different type of car part, and then one special car skin. These would be curated to the player that was playing it. It would always show you something that you didn't have. And the prices were all reasonable. You could play for 30 minutes and buy a character with the money that you gained out of that you wouldn't have before. You could play for 30 minutes to an hour and you would go up a tier on the battle pass.
Yeah.
And the battle
pass... There's a
pass,
shorter loop.
There's a shorter loop.
Loop is short.
And because you see exactly what you're going to get, you can say like, oh, I'm going to spend my 30 minutes to an hour working towards getting this character because I want this character. Yeah. And if you don't want the character...
That's not what they want. That's
but
what
like,
you want.
Works.
They're like these guys are like the casino companies. They're like the casino companies that don't show light in the casinos so the customers don't come out. That's what they want.
They don't show.
They want you in there forever.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you leave, they don't care. Because they want the other guy who's like hasn't changed in 20 days. It's just like spending all of his money on like more cart boxes or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what's so frustrating is like this endless chase of the dollar is ruining so many games.
And I resent that because oh my god, CTR is real, and people acknowledge this system like in articles. People have written articles about how good the system is. And the thing is, I have bought battle passes before. I have never bought currency in like a game to get items or anything like that. But CTR got me to do that. Because here's the thing, I got to the end of the battle pass and like I've only spent like 20 hours in it, and I got almost to the end of the battle pass. The battle pass was over, and then it said like, hey, you got to this tier, congratulations. For this amount of coins, you can complete the battle pass. You can get everything that was on the season. And it was such a reasonable thing. It was like $5 or something. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is extremely fair. This deserves to be rewarded with my money. Like $5 worth for skipping for missing out on 10 hours of gameplay and getting the rewards for it, I think was perfectly reasonable. I happily gave them my money. I got the character at the top of the tier. He's awesome, and I enjoyed playing with him. It was immediate, like, this is what this should cost. This is exactly like how a battle pass should be implemented.
it's juxtaposed to dude how I feel about what's the prices in Valorant right now. Like they've come out with some like undeniably very sick skins. Like some of the new skins are so good, but dude, they're so expensive. It's to the point now where like I know I'm not gonna buy it because I know that the price is stupid.
Yeah.
Right. It's above a price that like I'm gonna break. Right. Because it's like $40 or something for like
$40 for a skin.
It's $40 for a knife. Canadian. We're talking about Canadian.
Okay.
But it's still $40 for a knife is fucking stupid, right? Like it's dumb. And now
our salaries don't get adjusted for
out,
difference.
Yeah, every time a great skin comes out, I'm not excited for the skin anymore. I'm blue-balled. And I get angry. I get frustrated for the fact that I don't get to like use this gun, or at least even get a chance to like indulge. Because unlike you, I'm not opposed to buying currency in games.
No,
especially in free-to-play games like Apex Legends, for example. Like, after I put a certain amount of time in, I was like, okay, I allow myself to spend a certain amount of money once I break a hour spent threshold, right? I feel like it's equivalent exchange at least, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's fun because you suddenly it's almost like a win-win, and exactly what free-to-play wants. Like you spent the time in, they want that. Now you want to like
enhance your experience a little bit because you're enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the times it's just skins because people don't really want to like cheat for themselves for the most part, right?
Yeah.
But it's out of the question when it's like if you wanted to buy a Snickers bar, but every Snickers bar was $40. How much would you buy I would never buy a Snickers.
I would never buy a Snickers bar.
But now
Snickers bar is like $5 and in passing, you're like, yeah, I can spend $5 on a Snickers bar.
But then also you're playing the game, so it's like every advertisement you see is for Snickers. And you can't actually buy that stupid thing.
And you can't, and you know the Snickers actually taste really good.
Yeah, you're like, and they keep like getting better and better, right? You're like, now they're organic and they're healthy for you too. You're like, oh my god, this for $40 though. It's exactly this how it's something like I feel the same way. It's just a slight over greed.
What is the most exorbitant thing you have bought as like an add-on
for a game?
Yeah. Just out of curiosity. I'll tell you mine afterwards.
I think the only thing I've ever bought that I feel kind of shady for was I wanted to play a League of Exile with a friend who was already high leveled, and it was near middle or the end of the league, and I didn't want to like gear up and stuff like that. And it was for like a hardcore solo, not solo stuff found, but a hardcore league. So I was like, I just bought like a bit of currency so I can get myself the 6-link white tabula rasa, right? Because it just makes leveling faster. That was all it.
Yeah.
And that was all I cared about. I spent like, I think it was like $10 for an Exalt, which is like, I don't know.
Oh, that's cheap.
I don't know how to trust. Yeah, it's not that bad, right? But that was because it was like it's an unsanctioned site. Like it's like it's super. Oh,
it was unsanctioned. Shady, right? Oh man, gross.
Well, it's like there's no sanctioned like currency buying in Paths of Exile, right? So don't get my account bad. But like in terms of like legit like loot box stuff, like honestly, maybe like I bought like 20 loot boxes in Overwatch, and I don't feel bad about that because I don't feel like it was like a waste of money either, right?
Yeah.
Like I got they were pretty good at giving you a lot of loot boxes for almost every occasion, which it was nice because at least you felt you always had a chance, right?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would play Overwatch for like an hour and get a loot box, and then that was their gaming session for the day in Overwatch.
You could feel accomplished even though you may have lost your round. You get a nice item, you're like, damn,
yeah,
it's kind of worth it.
That's the thing that like I will applaud Overwatch for is like they did hit my metric, right? Because there was no battle pass or anything. They only had the loot boxes. Yeah. Sometimes opening up a loot box and then you would come out with like just currency and stuff, it felt like your day was a waste. That's my biggest criticism of it. But if they had just gotten rid of the duplicates and you knew you were like advancing every time, every single session, right?
Yeah.
The most money I think I've spent on aside from like buying the passes for Destiny and the expansions, which I think is like that's separate. That's just how you play the game. And give money for their content. I spent $20 on Sea of Thieves.
Like as in what did you buy?
I bought the currency. I bought $20 worth of currency in Sea of Thieves because I was playing on a Game Pass, so it was already like I didn't spend any money on the game, and I bought a set of 3 cats and 3 outfits for the cats.
Oh,
and
I still cosmetics,
and I still have $10 left over $10 worth of
cosmetics.
coins.
See, the thing is, like, when you're just buying cosmetics, it's like that there's no cost.
No,
Like, there's no moral
and now
cost.
I have a
It's
cat
just
following me
cosmetics.
around. It was the only way. It's a game changer because you can pick up the cat, you can pet the cat, you can show the cat to people, and they know that you have a cat. You can name your cat will follow you around. He has different animations for like sitting on your wheel, sitting at the table. He sleeps. He gets agitated when you're in combat. This cat is great. His name is Bus, and I'll protect him forever.
So it makes me think about like another microtransaction system that seems to work out amazingly for the community is EVE Online. They have like a currency, in-game currency system where you can exchange it for like essentially a month pass, like to play EVE Online, right? And if you make enough money in the game, you can buy more of these passes and essentially play for free.
Okay.
But that also essentially creates a type of money trade market in which their ISK, which is their in-game currency, like has some tangible real world value
For people
right?
that are
like
invested.
as a transfer. Which,
EVE
you know,
Online.
well, it's just like money, it only works if everyone believes in it, right? Like,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
EVE Online, as long as some people are playing it, right? And so
Don't they actually have a cryptocurrency?
I don't know exactly how deep it goes because that game is way deeper than any game that I've ever seen. It might be the deepest game that we have right now in terms of its like economy and stuff. But that is such a like I don't think I've ever heard anyone in that community complain about their monetization, and that's a non-cosmetic like monetization, right? Like it actually has an impact.
That's a
You
direct,
can't play the
tangible
game,
thing, yeah.
right? You are allowed to play the game if you do it. So like it's very interesting that there's clearly a way to do in-game like monetization properly, and this game not only does it, but it enables their economy. Like if the money didn't have any actual sink that you can use, people might just be blowing stuff up for no reason. They might just actually like crash their ships because maybe once you get to a certain richness, you just don't give a shit anymore, right? You just want to end your game. But in this one, like the game's persistent. If you make like 1 billion ISK or whatever it is, and you have the grand mothership, you can just give it to someone else, and then now they have it, right? And it's like a $9,000 ship, right?
Is it actually like that expensive?
There are super star ships that are like massive. I think there was one guy that I heard about that was just rich, and you can go into the game and you can like buy the currency essentially by buying those things and trading the passes, right? And so you can essentially buy a license to captain the ship, and you can buy the ship, and which is exactly what he did. It was like a $9,000 real life like USD ship.
Wow.
And then I think as soon as he took it out of the dock, people raided him and blew up the ship.
Oh man.
But this guy's
really a
rich. He
fun
just did it
story,
again.
though?
Like, you don't even feel bad for this guy. This guy's some rich oil baron that just wanted to F around in EVE Online, right? But like that's kind of like the beauty of that game, right? Like it has some sort of tangible risk, which I think is what everyone loves about it, is that it feels like such a real world type of D&D world where you can like you have corporations that all they do is operations for other corporations. That's how they make money. They like source supplies and stuff like that, and they just do trade routes, right? So
yeah, that's it's such an interesting game, but I feel like you need like 100% committal into it. Like that's the other problem with like all these like large games that like are fascinating to hear about. But like
you can't get into it. Like,
my lifestyle does not permit me to do that. My lifestyle involves me playing like games when they come out and then moving on to something else, which is not what they want me to do.
That's what I just love about games that just want to do themselves. Like I can love game. I love EVE even though I've never played it. I just love the idea of it. I love hearing the news about it. I love hearing all the antics about it, right? Like the fact that it exists makes me happy that it exists in the world.
Man,
even though I don't play it myself.
I was reading galaxy-changing stories in high school about EVE Online, about these two superpowers that like had an out and it dynamically changed like the state of the universe forever. And it cost like $500,000, and they know because they had like EVE analysts like crunching the data, and they said
I know.
there's
like a news broadcaster that like broadcasts like EVE news around the galaxy. there was a one amazing story of like this corporate heist where this guy like infiltrated an enemy corporation.
Yes, I've heard about this
through
one.
the ranks and then robbed them blind. Oh my god.
Yes.
The legends that can spawn. That's awesome.
You know what?
That's tabletop shit.
Is there already a book on EVE Online, like one that just chronicles this history? Because I would be very interested in reading that.
Like, how would you verify? You would have to do so much research. And this is like hard. Might be harder to do with most books.
Like, come on.
Yeah, but then who are these people? In real life, you're like researching actual people with addresses. Who the fuck is like Buttlicker 69 that like instigated the war or something like that, right? You know it's gonna be some username dude that you'll never be able to find again because it's like
I want to hear the ballad of Buttlicker 69. Ken,
dude,
get someone to write get someone to write the legacy.
The legacy of Buttlicker 69. You can't forget. Never forget. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that whole rift was just to say that I liked the fact that No Man's Sky tried to fix their game and are continuing to develop it. Like, there's no reason for them to. There's no legal reason for them to do it, and so I like that they're picking their ethics. Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll poke at that game because I saw they added a horror side story in the game, but like I think I'll just bounce off of it again.
Everything. I like it just because it was the first time I played it and I wanted a VR game, and I still like it for a VR game because it's just chill, right? I literally put up another screen that has like a TV show, and so I'm just like in my ship flying around, making money, watching TV.
I just don't play those games. Then if I have to do something else, I just don't play them.
Yeah, exactly. It's not for fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. So that's our big discussions here. So Ken, are you playing anything else other than No Man's Sky?
No man, I'm no man, dude. I'm just I'm actually just doing a lot of art lately. I've been watching a lot of art streams, and I've been telling you about it. I've been painting just like people's character art or things that happened in the stream. It's so much fun.
I haven't said this on stream before, and I think I should really say it. Like, yo, y'all should really check out Ken's stuff. Like, this isn't just some scrappy artist saying like, hey, please check out my stuff. Like, Ken does this for a fucking living, and like he deserves every penny he makes because Ken is an amazing artist.
Trying to do it for a living. We've been able to stay afloat. We're trying every day to continue that way. Yeah,
please do check out Ken's stuff. Ken is really accomplished, and I really do believe in his arc.
Yeah. So the latest thing I did was actually, it's on my Twitter right now, Ken604. I did a piece of character art for Arcadum streams for anyone who watches that stream. Dude, watching D&D is so fun. And I finally got a campaign going again where I get to be a player character. And it's like a once every 2 weeks, but I look forward to every week, dude.
Nice.
It's so good.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. What about you? Are you playing anything right now?
Me. I feel like every week I start getting more packed with everything. I'm doing a game of Pandemic Legacy every Monday.
Oh, nice.
We're halfway through that.
Is it an ongoing game, or do you guys like?
Yeah, Pandemic Legacy is a legacy game, so it is between 12 to 24 games, and it tells a complete story, and the mechanics change over time. I'll should do a video about this another time because it's really good.
Smaller. Is there a smaller version of Pandemic?
normal Pandemic. That's just normal board game, and it's repeatable.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know they had a legacy. It's interesting.
Yeah, they have.
I like that idea
actually.
A lot.
It's really fascinating. There's 3 seasons of it, and they're all pretty different. Season 1 is going to some interesting places right now in ways that I never imagined a game like Pandemic would. It is. Oh my god! I wish I could talk about it, but like this is the sort of thing that you have to be careful about spoilers because it's an $80 investment, and
you really don't
and you don't want to spoil it. But it's definitely it's between 12 to 24 games, and then you're done, and you can never play this game again because the surprise is gone, and you don't want to spend another $80.
Is there a Risk-like game that is way better than Risk?
Scythe.
Scythe?
Scythe. This one.
That's a tactical tactical strategic warfare.
It's a tactical
type of game?
strategic economic game. It is like Civilization light meets Risk.
Okay.
Definitely more
And
focused
how
on
does it handle the
economics.
dude? Risk was almost good, but it was actually so frustrating to play. If you play their standard rules,
Yeah,
so frustrating.
yeah. Risk is a good fan. I also really like 858 Vikings Invasions of England.
Oh, okay.
That's the most Risk-like game that I own, and I really enjoy it. The combat is also really
okay.
simple in that one.
Okay.
Dude,
That sounds
like
interesting.
this is my board game collection. I have a ton of stuff, any
Dude, you're
type
set.
of game. So like if you need like
Yeah, I need
advice on that,
recommendations.
we can
Well,
definitely talk about it.
I like the strategy, almost like chess. I like games that are like chess. I actually love chess itself, right? But I would love to see like a better version. If someone like you
want chess
or like a
2.0?
more like a games designer all-star just said, if we took chess, like what's the next level of chess? Like
Yeah.
the mechanics are there, right? But
So
chess is
So Scythe, as you can see behind me here, Scythe isn't too much like chess, but you can probably tell by the types of the games that like I play in board games. I don't like a lot of board games that have a lot of chance associated with them. Some sort of chance is fine, but a lot of the games that I really get into and I want to get good at involve very little chance. Scythe is one of those games. It is almost like board game the board game a little bit, because it has a type of mechanic from every different type of board game. So there's economics in like a game, sort of like Agricola, where you're just collecting resources and using the resources to build up your factory. So you can produce more stuff, so your units can move more, and you're like upgrading your civilization as you do that. But at the same time, you're trying to gain more popularity and have like these different encounters on the board that then you make decisions based on that. So then it becomes more like an RPG in a sort of way.
like events that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you're also trying to manage things like your power, which is what you fight with. When you get into combat with someone, and it's if you overlap one of their mechs. It's a mech game as well.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
So that if you overlap a tile where someone has in a mech, you'll have an encounter with them at the end of it. And basically, it's gambling.
Sorry, finish.
It's gambling. It's as you do different actions, or as you pick what you want to do per turn, you gain power, and you can spend up to 7 power, fighting someone else's units, as well as many combat cards as you have units that moved into it. And combat cards give you like +5, +2, +3. So you have to think about, when you're attacking someone, what power do they have, how many combat cards they have, and how badly they really want to beat me.
Right.
So it's very flexible. It's very strategic in that way, and it's also flexible in how you win, because there are 10 objectives in the game. The first person completes 6 objectives, and they're all global, finishes the game. They don't necessarily win. What you win is based on how much money you have. So you see, there's all these different systems that interconnect with it.
Right.
But
I hate games that like you feel like the dice determines the winner.
Yeah.
Like Monopoly literally is designed that way.
Yeah. I like games that use dice for combat. I like because then you're choosing between whether you're playing poker or you're playing craps, right?
Yeah.
And
well, I like that the dice represents the inherent randomness and possibilities of real life. Like you're never 100% sure.
But
right?
you should also be able to mitigate. You should also be able to mitigate it. Like you should go into a combat saying like, no matter what the dice rolls down, I have a 90% chance that this is going to go in my favor.
Yeah, exactly. You should have a chance to like definitely get it, or at least like a high percent chance.
Another game that I really like, Cyclades, uses dice for its combat. And you're rolling dice based on the number of units that you have, and it caps at 3. So there was a moment where like I was playing with at our office, and I was defending this one island, and like I really wanted to keep this island, but I had only stationed like 2 guys there, and then the other guy brings in like 4 guys, right? And like we're rolling dice, and like he loses a guy, suddenly we're even, and then I'm down to my last guy, and he's down to 2 guys, and I win 2 rolls in a row. And like he gets kicked out, and like that was a big play from him, and I just barely hung on. That's a fun story, right?
That is fun.
It sucks for him, and he never recovered. But it was also risky for him. He knew he had a 60-30% chance, and and the dice just didn't work out for him in that way.
What was that game called?
Cyclades.
Cyclades? Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's a really fun game. If you ever want to play board games, like come over to one of my shindigs.
Yeah, I should before, especially before you head out east. Yeah.
Yeah. FYI, moving to Montreal next year.
Yeah, outed you. My bad.
But yeah, and that's my Monday game is Pandemic Legacy, and my Tuesday game is Gloomhaven, which is just like the big RPG board game to end all games. Wednesday is my podcast day. Thursday,
Nice.
Thursday is usually my rest day, but it's going to be my Tony Hawk day now. That game comes out
Oh, the new one.
6
right.
p.m. I am so excited.
Very
I'm ready.
I hope it's good. I hope it's good.
I've played the demo. I can verify the game is. It doesn't feel like how the originals feel, but it still feels exceptionally good. It feels different. It doesn't feel bad.
Right.
And I think because it feels different, it feels it's actually a better game. And as long as it hits its goals and has enough stuff to do, and if they do what they did with CTR, because it's the same developers, they haven't confirmed if they're making like a battle pass like CTR. By the way, we need a better name for battle passes that are not battle passes. You don't need a battle pass in a skate game. Get a skate pass or whatever. We should call them limited time passes, LTPs.
Yeah, or I don't know, like I honestly don't care what
Limited
people
passes.
call them. It's such a
Limited
marketing
passes, LPs.
It's
I
so
don't
annoying
know.
because I'm a marketer too, but
Just call them LPs.
yeah, sure, LPs. Little just call them like bingo cards. You're just trying to check. It's like a checklist. Just call them a checklist. You can buy like the $10 checklist that'll get you all the items.
Yeah. Regardless, so I hope they make an LP for Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Because I would love an excuse to go and check in with Tony every day. You know, do challenges, because that's a game I do legitimately enjoy. I will sometimes just boot up Tony Hawk 2, Tony Hawk 3, and just play through it just because I enjoy playing those games.
Yeah.
So if I had a
I
tangible,
know a number of friends that do that too. Like whether it's the soundtrack or just like they've had so much practice already, like with the mechanics, they just love it. Yeah,
it's good. I have a special place in my heart for Tony Hawk, so I'm excited to have a new game, and I hope they give me a reason to come back for it. That's all I can ask for. We'll probably have a very long discussion about it next podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it for me, I think. Anything else?
I'm all wrapped up. No, I'm all good. No title bars at the top, but at LF Sandrin on Twitter. Ken Ha is at 604.
Ken Ha 604.
Ken Ha 604. Yeah. Please check out his art stuff, his art streams. Ken does a lot of amazing work, and it's important for us to recognize them. Soundtracks were by our good friend Adrian Talons. Check out his stuff on his SoundCloud. I'm so glad I can actually have time to do feedback on this and I don't have to wait for like the song. But yeah, if that's it for all of us.
Unlimited power.
Unlimited power. And if you want more unlimited power, you can always come back and check us right here, Beyond the Pixel.